Also true that much of history is indisputably factual because we have artifacts and coins and birth records and archaeology, and somebody in Mesopotamia kept a record of how much grain they ate. It's not all up in the air to change or delete or make up based on what makes you feel better today. Portland Public Schools has a plan now to teach kids that the idea of gender being mainly binary was brought here by white colonizers. The curriculum guide says, when the United States was colonized by white settlers, their views around gender were forced upon the people already living here. Not even Star Trek would try that story.
The woke mob isn't content with reshaping the present anymore. They've now declared war on the past. Heroes are being dragged through the mud, legacies twisted, and historical truths bent to fit a modern agenda. It may look harmless on the surface, but make no mistake, this is an attack on the very backbone of our nation. That's exactly why Bill Maher has had enough, and when he finally tore into the woke crowd, he did it with surgical, brutal precision. Buckle up, because this takedown was glorious.
You can get creative with a novel, a TV show, or a movie, but history books, that's not supposed to be fan fiction. How we teach our kids history has become a big controversy these days, with liberals accusing conservatives of wanting to whitewash the past, and sometimes that's true, sometimes they do. But plenty of liberals also want to abuse history to control the present. And last month, a scholar named James Sweet caught hell for calling them out for doing just that. He criticized a phenomenon known as presentism, which means judging everyone in the past by the standards of the present. It's the belief that people who lived 100 or 500 or 1,000 years ago really should have known better.
After wrecking the present with their unhinged social experiments, the left has pivoted to the past, desperate to rewrite it so it conveniently props up their crumbling worldview. They've forced their narratives into schools, workplaces, and even sports, but people are finally waking up. Their arguments are collapsing under the weight of reality. So now they cherry pick, distort, and butcher history just to manufacture a sliver of moral high ground. It's a last-ditch effort to stay relevant, and the irony is glaring. No amount of rewriting yesterday can rescue an ideology that's losing today.
Which is so stupid. It's like getting mad at yourself for not knowing what you know now when you were 10. Stupid me, spending all that time raising sea monkeys and playing with slot cards and jerking off to a Playboy in the barn. Who doesn't have moments from your past that make you cringe? Who hasn't said, I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I wore that. I can't believe I thought that. I can't believe I did that. You ate dirt. You wanted to be a Ghostbuster. You shoplifted gum. You tried to be a white breakdancer.
There's one group convinced they've never made a mistake, never said a wrong word, never taken a wrong step. The left, the self-proclaimed guardians of virtue, saints of Twitter, professors of what's good and just. And because they've crowned themselves morally flawless, they've also crowned themselves the arbiters of morality, not just for today, but for every dead historical figure who failed their ever-shifting rulebook. Context, nuance, irrelevant. They stand in judgment with the smugness only people who believe themselves incapable of error could possibly muster.
Yes, because we hadn't then grown into the persons we would become. And humanity writ large is just the collective version of that. Did Columbus commit atrocities? Of course. But people back then were generally atrocious. Everybody who could afford one had a slave, including people of color. The way people talk about slavery these days, you'd think it was a uniquely American thing that we invented in 1619. But slavery throughout history has been the rule, not the exception. The Sumerians, the Egyptians, the Greeks, Romans, the Arabs, British, the early Americans, all the way up through R. Kelly.
America, for its sins, has become the woke crowd's favorite pastime. Scroll through X, and it's the same recycled outrage on loop. America was evil. America was built on slavery. But here's the irony. These same moral crusaders will turn around and cheer for groups infinitely more violent like Hamas. So America's centuries-old sins are unforgivable forever, But modern day extremists deserve sympathy? That's not morality. That's hypocrisy dressed up in hashtags.
Who do you think gathered the slaves from the interior of Africa to sell to slave traders? Africans, who also kept their own slaves. We're a species prone to making others of our species our bitch. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Humans are not good people. And the capacity for cruelty is a human thing, not a white thing. That's the truth.
The hard truth Maher leans into: every human being carries the capacity to harm when given the chance. Strip away the polished manners and politically correct masks, and you'll find the same raw impulses, and to dominate, to manipulate, to wound. Even our good deeds are rarely pure. Most are dripping with hidden motives, craving applause, chasing self-righteousness, hunting validation. Charity gets broadcast, intentions become hashtags, and virtue is flaunted like a trophy. No one truly does good in its untainted form, and the woke left's noisy sermons are often the loudest performance of all.
In today's world, when truth conflicts with narrative, it's the truth that has to apologize. Being woke is like a magic moral time machine where you judge everybody against what you imagine you would have done in 1066, and you always win. Presentism. Yeah, this professor is right. It's just a way to congratulate yourself about being better than George Washington because you have a gay friend and he didn't. But if he was alive today, he would too. And if you weren't alive, if you were alive then, you wouldn't.
Here's where Maher absolutely nails it. Today's moral grandstanders are practicing what amounts to historical presentism. They sit in air-conditioned homes, scrolling on Wi-Fi, asking ChatGPT to validate their brilliance, then pass judgment on people who lived hundreds of years ago in an entirely different world. They measure yesterday's struggles against today's luxuries as if context doesn't matter. Worse, they don't grasp that morality itself isn't universal. What one society accepts, another condemns. Yet they treat 2026's values as the eternal benchmark for all human history. Erase context and you erase truth.
In public schools has a plan now to teach kids that the idea of gender being mainly binary was brought here by white colonizers. The curriculum guide says, when the United States was colonized by white settlers, their views around gender were forced upon the people already living here. Not even Star Trek would try that story. Where they discover a planet and give them separate bathrooms. It's like they finally discovered a unified theory of wokeness, incorporating all their ideas about race, gay, gender, and colonizers, like the New World was a great big diverse dance club and the Pilgrims were the bridge and tunnel crowd who came in and ruined everything.
The woke crowd isn't just rewriting the past, they're engineering the future by targeting children. Walk into some classrooms today and kids are told gender is a feeling, fluid, switchable on a whim. This isn't fringe theory anymore, it's being taught as settled fact. In some cases, children are even encouraged to transition without their parents' knowledge or consent. The number of young people swept into this ideological current is staggering, yet the left celebrates it as progress. In reality, it's reckless social experimentation, and the kids are the ones paying the price.
A play called I, Joan, currently being presented in London, written by Charlie Josephine, who identifies as non-binary and uses they, them pronouns. And it portrays Joan of Arc as, surprise, non-binary with they, them pronouns. Which, if you think about it, makes even less sense because Joan, being French, spoke a language where every noun is masculine or feminine. Joan says in the play, I'm not a girl, I don't fit that word, as if she's a character on Euphoria.
Not satisfied with dismantling America's heritage, the woke brigade has stretched its tentacles across the Atlantic, trying to drag Europe into the same circus. But Europe isn't a blank canvas. It's a forest of distinct cultures, languages, religions, and traditions, each rooted in centuries of history. Forcing American-style woke ideology onto it is like demanding an oak tree behave like a pine. It won't take. Nations carrying that much philosophical and religious depth don't bow to Twitter hashtags or TikTok activism. And Europe, for all its flaws, isn't trading its heritage for hollow virtue signals.
Oh, it's true, Joan of Arc did wear pants, but that's what the soldiers wore when she was soldiering. But in the retelling, Joan would rather die than stop wearing men's clothing. Okay, Joan of Arc wasn't executed by the fashion police. Her trial went on for over 2 months. We have the transcript, and not once did she complain about being misgendered. She had bigger fish to fry, like herself.
Joan of Arc's story is the opposite of woke. At just 17, she wasn't writing manifestos about identity or demanding special treatment. She put on armor, rallied soldiers, and marched straight at the English invaders to free France. Her mission wasn't gender politics or victimhood. It was grit, faith, and the raw fight for her homeland. She took everything the modern left would label a weakness, her youth, her inexperience, her peasant roots, and turned them into fuel for courage. That's why her legacy still burns centuries later. It wasn't built on slogans. It was forged on the battlefield.
It's also true that much of history is indisputably factual because we have artifacts and coins and birth records and archaeology, and somebody in Mesopotamia kept a record of how much grain they ate. It's not all up in the air to change or delete or make up based on what makes you feel better today.
No matter how hard woke culture tries, history will not be rewritten to fit its fantasy. History isn't a novel you can edit on demand. It's the record of real people who struggled, sacrificed, and built the foundation of every freedom we enjoy. Were they perfect? Of course not. But perfection was never the requirement. Survival and progress were. To sit in 2026 with Wi-Fi and air conditioning and sneer at people from centuries ago isn't moral superiority, it's arrogance. We honor them not by erasing their flaws, but by learning from them and by defending the truth from ideological revisionism. That's how the video closes. And if you enjoyed it, hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.